So new laptops launching for 2026. This is one of the first vids of the year. These are the new Asus ZenBook models. So we have the A14, the A16, and one of my favorites, the ZenBook Duo, which is super cool. We'll talk about this one first and then get to the other two in case you just haven't seen this before. So as the name implies, this is a dual folding screen laptop. Essentially gives you two displays to give you more real estate. There's a bunch of different use cases that you can obviously use the laptop for. Like I said, if you haven't seen it before, it comes, or you can use it as a traditional laptop in its normal clam shape mode. So it gives you a main 14-inch 3K 144 Hz OLED panel, and when you close the laptop, it looks like a traditional one. You can see here Asus ZenBook, which is kind of like their design language across all ZenBook models. You can see against the other three, it's in Asus's material called Ceraluminum. This one's specifically in mohair gray. And when you take a look at the side, that's where you can tell it's a bit chunkier, because when you open the laptop, that's where the real magic happens, and you can remove the keyboard to give you access to that second 3K panel. So essentially you're getting two 3K OLEDs, and on the back, that's where they have a little kickstand to prop up the screens. And now you have 28 inches of real estate to use, and that keyboard, which is Bluetooth, so you can see I can use this wherever I want. You can theoretically place this further away and say like type up something. You can use the trackpad obviously and use the screens however you want. So what's new to this year is the actual hinge mechanism. So if we actually take a look at that, it has a new hinge design to make the closing mechanism better. So it has a 5% smaller footprint than before. It weighs 1.65 kilograms. Obviously that's with the keyboard, and you could theoretically close this and technically forget this. Just make sure you always carry around the keyboard as well. And you can see it's also loaded with ports. So you've got HDMI 2.1, USB-C, a headphone jack, and on the other side, you've got USB-A, another USB-C, as well as the power button. And also what's new to this is what you can't see. So it has the new Series 3 Intel Core Ultra processor. So this one specifically has the Intel Core Ultra 9. It's the 386H processor. It's got Intel Arc graphics, and the Intel NPU gets up to 50 tops. You can spec it with up to 32 gigs of RAM, which this one has, and also 2 terabytes of storage. Once again, this one is the top spec, making it almost like the ultimate multifunctional machine because you can use so many different displays. And I'll kind of walk through what I like to use it for. So when you are obviously browsing most of the time, you're probably just using it as a standard laptop. You're all familiar with how that kind of works. This is great for daily usage, browsing, productivity, when you're just typing out emails, even like essays. And one question that I always got about this was when you're using the keyboard, is there any weird wiggle on it? Because technically it is magnetic. The keyboard stays quite secure. Like you don't actually notice this has two different screens, or this can be removed. And then when you want to switch into baller mode, when you really want to watch content, that's when you open it up. So now as an example, if you want to get really into whatever you're browsing, you want like a full continuous screen. For example, like I'm just on my YouTube page here, I can select one of my videos. You can watch that, and then you can kind of interact and see all the comments. And then if you really want to multitask, you can now technically have your second screen open and still watch your video. You can really obviously tailor that to how you want to use it. I've actually played games on the top, screen sniped on the bottom, whatever you want to do. You can have different work pages open if you want to be more productive, and it also works in horizontal mode as well. Maybe a bit more useful for short form content for TikTok if you want to doom scroll things. I don't decide what you like to do with your spare time, but once again, the possibilities are endless. Say you are a coder, you can have these two screens, obviously in vertical, which is way better for that. You can also choose to mirror the screens, and the last mode, kind of maybe very use case specific, is sharing mode. So say for example, you're sharing like a document. I'll use my house as an example. Love to have like some of my architectural drawings on them, sharing them, say, whoever's sitting across the table, my wife, my architect, my designer. We haven't moved into our house, by the way, yet, which is more of an issue. You can see those drawings on two of the screens, so both of you can interact with it. And it does have a 99 watt-hour battery, which I think that's the toughest part to gauge for a dual screen laptop, because it really depends how heavily you're using your second display. If you have it for most of the time with just one display on, your keyboard over top, you typically get your all-day usage. But once you start to activate that second lower display, obviously if you're playing games, you're using it heavier, that's when when battery life will kind of take a bigger hit. It also supports the Asus Pen 3, which comes in the box. I won't bore you with my non-artistic skills, but you could technically use this, say, like on the bottom touch screen, and you can see what's happening on the top. It's got Dolby Vision Atmos with 6 speakers. It's got 2 front firing and 4 woofers. But yeah, that's pretty much a quick little rundown of what's new on the Asus ZenBook Duo. It's just a bit slimmer, new processors inside. It's got these beautiful 1000-nit OLED screens, and the coolest thing when I whip this out, when taking this to say like a coffee shop, people always ask like, what the heck is that? Imagine setting this up as a mobile workstation when you kind of bring this out into this form factor. Not a lot of people have seen a laptop like this, and you get the most interactions with people asking how it works. The tech has gotten way better. We've seen a couple generations of this, and even something as simple as flipping orientations, the transitions have become way smoother, and as this gets better, I think it'll just become more mainstream. So that is the first laptop of the bunch. So moving on to, I would say, the more traditional laptops. So these ones are your classics. So this is, I mentioned the A14 and of course the A16, very similar. The biggest thing here is the screen size, so you can see the difference. This one obviously is 16 inches, whereas this one is 14 inches, still built out of that aluminum. So if you haven't felt this, it's almost like a matte soft touch finish. It resists fingerprints, it's scratch resistant, and Asus has built this exclusively for the past couple years now, and it's a really nice and sleek material. This one's in Zabriskie beige, whereas this one is Iceland gray, so you can kind of almost see the 3 different color options, or I guess the range of aluminum across 3 of them. And when you turn these around, these have, like I said, more of a traditional form factor. Not much has changed in terms of the overall design. So if you haven't picked up one of these ZenBooks before, these are super lightweight. So the 14 inch, this is under 1 kilogram, literally just with 2 fingers, you can kind of hold it up. Whereas the 16 inch, this weighs still pretty light for a 16 inch laptop, like 1.2 kilograms. But the big change coming to these guys is what's on the inside. So this features the new 2nd gen Snapdragon chip. So this has the Snapdragon X2 Elite chip, whereas this one has the Snapdragon X2 Elite Extreme chip. Interesting naming scheme. It's almost like their Ultra or their Pro version. But as an example, the Elite Extreme chip has better clock speeds up to 5 gigahertz. Compared to the 1st gen, the X2 Elite has 41% faster performance in creative tasks like multitasking and video editing, 130% in gaming, which is pretty huge, and 78% in AI performance. Obviously, Snapdragon chips have been known for their great like multi-day battery life. That has obviously continued. And on the AI side, they both have an 80 NPU tops, and interestingly, they both have a 70 watt-hour battery. So technically, once again, all day, but since the A14, this is smaller, this will have better battery life. You can easily get over 33 hours of video playback, once again, multi-day use. And the big difference between, say, the 14 and the 16 inch has to be the display. So on the 14 inch, this is only like a full HD panel. It's an Asus Lumina OLED, so it's still nice to look at. It has a peak HDR brightness of 600 nits, but like I said, it's only technically full HD. On the 16 inch though, this has a 3K OLED. It gets up to 1100 nits of peak HDR brightness, and it's 120 hertz versus the 60 hertz over on the 14 inch. So technically bigger display, better screen. And for the rest, they both have Dolby Atmos, both have Snapdragon sound. They both have a dual lightweight fan design, which I like, so it still keeps it cool. You tend to see in these lighter laptops that sometimes they're fanless, but the fans do help keep the performance up. And lastly, for ports, slight difference on them just because of the 16 inch. So we have dual USB-A slots on both, and then the 16 inch has a SD card slot, which I like, great if you're a creator. And then on the other side, it's the same, so HDMI 2.1, the other 2 USB-C ports, as well as a headphone jack. This is pretty much like your everyday go-to laptop. You just have to decide, do you like the form factor of a smaller 14 inch screen, obviously lesser quality, or if you want to go up to the big guy, still super lightweight. Like I said, for a 16 inch laptop, around 1.2 kilos, that is still very manageable to carry around in your backpack every single day. So that is pretty much your quick first look at the new Asus ZenBook models. Let me know which one your fave was. Like I said, I am a huge fan of the Duo. I don't think any other brand nails the dual screen laptop design like Asus does. Availability wise, I believe all of these laptops will be coming out in February, but make sure you stay posted. Hope you enjoyed my CES coverage where these were announced. Let me know what other tech laptops you're excited to see in the rest of 2026, and I'll catch the rest of you. I won't forget the keyboard in one of my next ones. Peace.